Mitch, how's your day going?
It has been going.
Looks like technology's working, eh?
I'm trying. I had actually,
So what did IT guys say?
no, he actually didn't come this week yet. He was here for the court on Wednesday, but I think he was swamped with court stuff, so. And then we had some staff start and it's been a week.
Hey. Is that a mask? Have you had, I am having so much difficulty with
Keeping it on.
fogging the glasses.
Oh, yeah.
Does that mask not fog?
Usually doesn't. It has a metal.
Because you have but you have the metal and then you have the little
And I have the
vents.
little,
Yeah.
I saw a hack for folks who wear glasses. If you're wearing these type of masks, flip them over to where the metal little pieces at the bottom.
Oh.
And then put your glasses on over the top of the fabric right here.
Okay.
And it won't fall.
Okay.
I didn't know that. Right.
Yeah, flip it over to where the little, probably just a little twisting tire.
Yeah.
A little metal piece in there is. Yeah, flip it over, put this side on top, and then it won't fall. Yeah, I'll give that a shot. Yeah.
I'm still trying to use disposable shoes. I just come back in my car.
Hey, Rachel, have you got anybody that's not coming tonight?
Not that I'm aware of. Craig and Dave, I think for sure are supposed to be here because they were going to give an update on.
I saw them there.
The business.
And I thought I better send you a text, but no,
Yes.
in case you were swinging by to pick it up on your way up here.
Go ahead. Katie, those are pretty cool.
Keep one in the car.
Is it just the base map that you gave me, Ken?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you found it?
Yep.
You know, if you keep following it in the funnel, it does.
Standard.
Rachel, I don't have any bars on my iPad.
That is it.
Like it shows the internet, but I have no.
Calling now.
There we go.
And then we are showing.
Those are 74.
Okay. It just, yeah, I think so.
Hello, and we really, okay, how are you? There's not a whole lot on that tonight, because I printed this off,
Okay.
and then I'll do the map up there.
Watershed.
Okay.
And if you guys do want
Let's
iPads
go
to look
this
at the
way.
map, that they- I can give you an iPad.
Okay.
So here's
Yeah.
We'll do it.
So I'm sitting here sewing. You can tell
Hello.
this whole.
Hi,
area.
how are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
First row, that's push on the.
Yeah.
Looks like the same information. You can't push over here. Yeah.
Right.
So this one, expand something, check.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. I'm pretty huge sale, you know.
Let's see here.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome, it's just the agenda. And then there's a map in there tonight, so.
Okay.
Not a whole lot, but. You say you can't get it to pull us? It's probably a large file, so just give it a little bit of time.
Yeah, I don't understand the 146th Street either. It seems like it's,
We'll talk about it.
okay, it seems like the one that's coming out of Carmel going into exit 210.
So the road that, whatever you want to call it, Cliff
Yeah,
or Deer Creek or whatever,
Right.
that road that it's on comes into Madison County.
right.
That's 146.
It is 146 though.
Right. So we've been talking about how that's really an important connection that we should make at some point, especially if we have 67th Street extension, you know, and not to say that that's exactly where this would be, but it's just to start the discussion.
Sure. I was seeing a big zigzag someplace and couldn't figure it out. That's what an old brain will do to you. Things don't look normal.
This is. This is 600.
It doesn't pull it very clean. 826, yeah. I couldn't even read it. I'm gonna take a picture of
We
it.
can put. This is 8.7. 76. This looks like so.
Yeah. I can't even read it.
Well,
Personal.
the picture of it and blowing it up. Works.
Rachel, can I send the town email on this iPad?
I think so.
I just need to find out from you what your Penn Bridge across the interstate cost.
Oh,
And if you need to.
it
look
cost
up,
$1 million
million
Mhm.
total,
total,
and then your share was
200,000.
80-20 split.
Yep.
Okay. Lebanon is very interesting.
To replace theirs?
They wanna do the same thing.
Yeah, and that was construction only. That I don't think that was including design.
Right,
The $1 million.
Right, hard cost, not
Yeah.
soft cost.
And I can get a better breakdown if you need it.
Yeah, if it's easy for you to grab it, email it to me, that would be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Steve, you're VP. I think if you want to go ahead and get started, we do have a quorum. Unless you want to wait a little longer to see if Craig.
No, it's 6:04 in my book.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, like to call to order the August 27th, 2020 Redevelopment Commission. Like to do a roll call of officers. I mean, sorry. Do a roll call.
Yeah, let's do a roll call for attendance. I can do it. Dave Cravens is not present. Lynn Mellinger. Present. Craig Campbell is not present. Steve Denny.
Here.
Adam Truman.
Here.
And Bill Hutton.
Here.
And we have a quorum.
Okay, constitute a quorum, so we'll do approval of last month's minutes.
And I do not have them in your folder tonight, so let's just kind of wait on that until next month and we'll approve them then if that's all right.
Okay. Is that all right with everybody? Okay. And then we'll go to old business, the Community Sports and Wellness Center.
Yep. So that is, it's an enclosed structure at this point. All windows are up, walls, doors, it's locked and everything. So they're doing a great job on moving forward with it. Kayla and I met a couple times within the last month with Jenny Morgan, who is the president out there. I had an on-site tour, which was very cool to go in and see, you know, what the status was and what's coming along, and, you know, seeing how this is all coming to life. It was very cool. And they would like to schedule a time where members of the Redevelopment Commission can come out and take a look at it too, and do a tour prior to, you know, just whenever you guys have time. I'll send out an email and see if we can schedule it where a couple of us can go at a time, or whoever's available can go. And they're also looking for council members to come out to take a look at it too. So it's kind of getting even more exciting than it has been, just to see it actually happening. I do know that they're working with Context, who is a landscape architecture firm out of Indy now. They used to be in Fortville, to do their landscaping plan. And they just were meeting with them the other day to get the landscaping going. So it's all coming along. We are going to do an on-site, planning staff is going to do an on-site visit either next Tuesday or the Tuesday after. We just need to make sure that things on the site are in order. Some concerns that we've had as staff is there's some weeds that are kind of getting overgrown, and it needs to get cleaned up to look a little nicer. You know, I know they have plenty on their plate to do, but we still need to have it looking in better shape on the outside than it is right now. So we're going to meet with them and talk to them about that a little bit. And other than that, I haven't heard the latest on what their official opening date was. Last month they had told me it was going to be end of September, and I'm not quite sure if they're still on track with that. My guess would be no, not end of September, but probably pushing into October or even early November. So for next month, we'll kind of see where they're at and give you guys another update on an official opening date. But it is a beast of a project. If you guys have some time and can drive out there and take a look at it, you know, do it, because it's a neat thing. So, and that's all I have, unless you guys have any questions for me. All right.
Okay. We'll move on to the Interstate Quadrant Master Plan.
Yep. And we have Ken Riemenschneider here tonight, and Allen, I don't know how to say your last name, so I'm just going to call you Allen. Thank you. From Kimley Horn tonight, who will be going over what we have done to this point. As staff, we've met with the two of them a couple times since the last RDC meeting. The most recent meeting we had was on Monday night or Monday afternoon. And I'll let Ken go ahead and take it from here.
Thank you, Rachel.
You're
Members of the commission. Thank you for the privilege to be before you here again tonight. We have been making some progress on the Interstate Master Plan. Where we are at this time is we are really diving into the market analysis piece of our scope of work. And that was really the topic of our meeting this week with Rachel and the town manager, Rusty. And so the purpose of that meeting was to gather information from town staff about current development activities that aren't going to show up on the ESRI data. So there's a subscription service that we use in order to grab demographic data and economic activity and so on. But we wanted to get a clearer understanding of what's going on that's not showing up in that data. And certainly, you know, the activity that you're having in the housing market is very interesting. We are seeing a fair amount of interest of people who live in cities like Indianapolis, rethinking living downtown Indy and looking at places to move, and that could be part of what you're saying, your activity. That's actually a trend that's going on around the country. Downtown Chicago condos and outlying communities to get away from some of these sites that we've seen at this period in our history and development activity.
I have a cousin that is a real estate agent in Colorado and has been doing it for 20 years now. And he said that they're seeing
Big slant.
270 families are moving out of New York every day to other areas. Like in Colorado is kind of a spot that people are
Right.
moving. And I mean, it's crazy to
Well, the other
think
piece of
about.
that is the business world has gotten a much better understanding of how, which segments of the business world really operate remotely, successfully. And a lot of these people are realizing, I don't need to be paying for a really expensive piece of real estate in downtown New York, Chicago, Minneapolis. I can be in one of these outlying communities. I can actually get some real estate that's more affordable. And the other thing that happens, and this is a trend that was actually identified some time ago, where because of technology, people didn't have to be in the city where their employment was. And it's just been really advanced in this current pandemic. So the other advantage and the thing that was identified in this earlier study and that we will continue to see is that these people generally are talent. And one of the things that a successful community is to be able to attract talent to your community. And when you attract that talent in the community, they also contribute their time, like you all are, to efforts for the betterment of the community. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. It's just a little bit of an aside in terms of what we're seeing from the demographic side. I want to go over the study area because when we first talked, we had a boundary that was a bit different. We've gotten into what some of the opportunities are that we see in this area, and we came to town and had some suggestions. We're here to confirm with everyone that what we're proposing makes sense. So I'll point out the changes that have been made in terms of the boundaries of the study area. And again, what we're doing here is we're doing a study. We will have some public engagement and feedback. We will be meeting with stakeholders to gain their feedback. And it's a planning study. And sometimes not everything you put in the plan happens, but it's good to think forward about what the real potential is. And so as we looked at this, one of the things that we thought about, you've studied the Rosa Fry watershed in a great amount of detail here. And you have plans that show 3 different schemes. The edge of that watershed is on this side of the interstate, here, and goes back to the other side. You have a study that shows 3 different schemes on how you can develop this side of the interstate and really minimize how much land you give up for stormwater management. If in fact you do low impact development stormwater management on here next to Walnut Creek. So we think that's a logical thing to do. So we're showing that as part of our conceptual plan at this point. Another area where, so our boundary came across and went up Fall Creek Road, so we dropped that down to there. So if you compare this to the contract that shows the boundary, and you see that. We also are, is this the Pilgrim property? Yeah.
Yes.
Pilgrim?
Yes.
We are also recommending that you consider pulling that property into the study area. The reason we're recommending that is it doesn't have any access to the road network west. Their Pilgrims are built in a bridge across. Obviously, it's not built to standard. It needs to be replaced there. But I think they did that because they didn't want to go all the way up here and over and back down to Farmers Field. Of course, Pilgrims also have sand and gravel, right? So there's access to it. So they had their trucks come out and just put that gravel drive in the farmland. So anyway, we were suggesting, and we understand this property is for sale at the moment. We think it makes sense to actually add that to this study area. Your drainage is, on this side of the interstate, generally going toward Foster Branch. And so we might very well likely have some drainage in that location. And then the other area that we talked to Rachel and Scott about is they would like to see a connection here to 600 South as part of this. And these road networks at this time are very conceptual. That's not exactly where the road will go. We're just saying we think those connections make sense. So in thinking about that, we thought, that it makes sense to use the interstate as an edge and pick up this odd shaped piece here and then come to South 425 west to the other direction of the study area boundary. And so, and then, you make this connection and you come up through here, plan for what happens there. Now that, in the end, when we get our market analysis and we kind of understand what is viable for you in terms of the new development, that's going to end up being residential. But we need to get the detail of the market analysis and make our recommendations and get your feedback, have our stakeholders. I guess we also are showing the Anderson 67th Street connector coming down through the project site. And then we're showing this connection that we were talking about before the meeting to 146th Street connecting west. And then in addition to this connector here, we certainly anticipate connecting South Heritage Way down to Fall Creek Road. And then one of the ideas that we had, because we did get traffic history for the Fall Creek Road intersection, State Street, and you have a fair amount of accidents at that location. And so as we're looking at this, the discussion came up, and it was actually Rachel's suggestion, and we agree with this. You could have Heritage Way come down and Fall Creek Road, go southwest. You could actually abandon the road up to State Street. You don't necessarily need the road there to service this property. You have your solar field here. And then that prompted me to say to Rachel, I said, wow, if we do that, why not use that road bed as part of a trail network? And we can build a loop that goes right to your healthplex. And because you have an easement that goes across Fall Creek, we could actually make, along that easement, we can make a connection back to the town so that the people in the town could actually jog or bike out to the healthplex as opposed to getting in the car and drive. So, and thinking that the healthplex probably would respond pretty favorably to that.
Yeah.
Having a loop that people could come to the healthplex, they can get into their, their workout clothes, go for a jog, come in and do weights, and so on. So that is an idea that we're putting forward. Again, some ideas that we're putting out there prior to us getting market analysis and really understanding what kind of development that we should be considering proposing here for a successful development scheme. To be able to attract the kind of development you're interested in getting, the kind of investment you're interested in getting, jobs to do. And with that, I think I should turn over to Alan to talk a little bit more about, how a master drainage plan can facilitate development of your interchange.
We discussed before, if you remember, I personally involved with exit 210. There's been a couple of regional detention ponds on both sides of the exit, Noblesville side, Fisher side, and like Ken mentioned before, maybe dual function. One is to propose regional detention that would save developable land for when you start marketing sites for the different developments, and the other thing to be also kind of like recreational, aesthetically pleasing. I don't know if you're familiar, like on the Fisher side, they were kind of, I would say, more creative. Fisher side came after Noblesville side. Noblesville side was more like, look at the really pure drainage, but Fisher side, they try to take advantage of the big pond. They created, I believe, a couple even islands on in a lake, and even I believe they have a beach. So I don't think other than being there, but I know it's being used. So something like that to kind of be also an amenity in addition to be a stormwater facility. So you look at here a few areas like Ken mentioned on a Rosafried watershed. It would be great to take advantage of this small area here. It's partially in a floodplain and have low impact design and try to take care of this drained area on the east side. It naturally drains to the southeast. On the west side, pretty much divided line is there's a little bit like watershed on the west side of 69, but I'd say majority of 69 will drain to the west to the Foster Branch Creek, and probably two natural areas for some of the potential would be this one here that can be expanded at the northwest corner, and one that this latest area that we added probably would be a good area to discuss about maybe regional detention park, this low area. Having said that, we can needs to be discussed, you know, as a part of the master plan. What we do with this big area here, it's a really very valuable corner, and it would be probably good. It can be redeveloped, potentially filled, because I believe this couple ponds here used more as oil pits than the I-69 would do. So it was more like water body than not used for detention because it's kind of high area. So there's not that much water draining to this. So we
Yeah, it doesn't really serve a drainage, you know, your drainage requirement needs are not being filled by that. And so, like Colin said, it's a very valuable property and it would make sense to.
It can be moved
Yeah.
closer to the creek. The other thing to look at is, I know it's still kind of early stage, but the 67th Street extension, it looks like they have a little struggle with how to handle drainage. I know right now that typical cross section is pretty wide. I mean, they're proposing almost 200-foot right of way, which is pretty generous, pretty wide right of way. So because they are proposing ditches on each side of 67, so it would be good if we can look at on a big picture and if we can kind of create the area that can have solar detention that includes the road also, so we can reduce the driveway, create more developable land. Because it's really, I believe it's like 4 to 6 mile ditch. It's really adding a lot of, because I believe they're using that for detention in addition to conveyance, stormwater. So that'll be something good to look at. We talked to Rachel and the town manager, maybe when I think it's BLM with their meeting with the county surveyor. It'd be good, maybe he could be part of it just to kind of see what could be done on a bigger picture, how we can handle things this one here.
And I just want to throw out that design right now is conceptual. They're not technically under design yet for it. I think they were doing some layouts to see what was possible. And as that does get through the official design process, the town does have some say in how that does get designed. So if the intent is to do drainage, that's exposed drainage like that, you know, the town can say, hey, this is not the way we want to see it develop in Pendleton. So, you know, and give our input so we can kind of craft how it looks down here. If Anderson is comfortable with that and wants that for their area, that's their business, but
Right.
Our business is our business, so.
And it would be a shame to give up that much land for storm drainage. We think that you have a real opportunity here, like your interchange, getting a plan together to be able to track and kind of develop. And preserving as much of that land as you can for development. Another reason for us, you know, looking at a master drainage plan is to be able to potentially develop a bit of a buffer between your residential development here and the new development. So we can use the stormwater management facilities, turn those into maybe a linear park that has its own trail and becomes a buffer to develop. So that's an advantage for that approach as well. And the other thing I should have said when I was talking about the trail is that this low impact development, stormwater management is an approach to utilizing native plants that can tolerate being inundated to do stormwater management. So it could be be very easily converted to a bit of a nature park for Pendleton. And a boardwalk, maybe through that, so that this loop trail could connect to that. And you can actually have some quote unquote parkland that's also serving the stormwater management function.
And overall, that could be a really neat connection with the golf course. You know, the Park and Recreation Master Plan is getting to the point where we're going to be adopting it soon. And, you know, one of the things that one of their goals in the park plan is using Fall Creek as a corridor that's more of active recreation in it. So people can put their kayak or whatever in at a certain point in the creek, come all the way down to the golf course and, you know, get out and get in their vehicle down there. And, you know, this is right across the creek from that. So having that connection there might be a really cool thing. I think the amount of park land that we'll need to acquire in the future is going to be a challenge for us to keep up with based on the number of residents that will be moving into Pendleton. You know, and there's standards on how many acres of parkland you should have per resident. I think we're okay where we're at right now because Falls Park is huge and it serves our community well. However, you know, looking at the amount of subdivisions we have coming in, we do need some of those larger community parks, not small neighborhood parks, to serve our recreational needs here. So that's another good thing that would be included in this project. I want to talk a little bit about that trail that Ken had talked about too. The northern part of that trail, we do have an estimate on and have funds committed from the MPO to do design work for that trail. They were committed, the funds got lost, and now we're still in the hopper for it. So the next time that the MPO has funding, we're first in line to get it. So, you know, part of it will already be kind of like a low-hanging fruit for us to jump on and start working on that type of a project. So it makes a lot of sense.
So we wanted to come and give you an update on where we are. Certainly when we get our market analysis information, we're talking about. And what we will probably do, we may not come to you at your next meeting, but we will probably be sending you information from the market analysis. Certainly we will be talking with Rachel, Scott, and Taylor on the results and where we can go with that. But we're happy to take any questions you have. We're very excited about this topic.
When do you expect the market analysis to start getting feedback on that?
We'll be done with it by the end of September.
Okay.
And so, you know, within a couple of weeks, we should be able to start passing information.
Okay. Do you see the 67th Street extension, you know, with the traffic that's going to be on that coming from, you know, Anderson, where the distribution centers are and factories and all that stuff? It's going to be tractor trailers, right?
You are going to get, going to be coming down to your interchange to hop on.
How do you see that affecting what we see for that area, or what would be good for that area?
Yeah, I think we probably ought to take a look and see if we can come up with some kind of estimation of what kind of traffic we're talking.
I think that the other engineering firm that worked on traffic to study.
Yeah.
So it would be good to have a study. How you.
Right now, the study, the justification for the project has not been accepted by NDOT yet. So Anderson is struggling with getting that approved right now. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens in the next couple months in regards to that project, because if they can't provide a justification for it to spend these funds on this project, then it's kind of dead in the water. So, you know, on one hand, when I look at that corridor, the piece that's in Pendleton, I feel like that's a very natural piece for us to have, a connection between State Road 38 and State Road 132. And I think in the long run, it will help open up that land for development and make it more valuable and more attractive to developers. But I am concerned, like you guys are, with that potential truck traffic coming from Anderson, you know, and how do we mitigate that truck traffic? You know, Rob Sparks from CED has been an advocate for another interchange somewhere on I-69 between 219 and 222, which is it's a challenge, you know, and it's one of those projects that once you get approval for it and people are going to, you know, convinced that this is something that needs to happen, it takes many, many years for that to actually get constructed. You know, when we did the interchange improvements here at 219, the studies began for that all the way back in 2014, and we finally got a interchange done in 2020. So that's, you know, the kind of time frame we're talking here. And when you're building a completely new interchange, it may take even longer because you have to do right-of-way acquisition and things like that. I don't think that's a bad idea, and I'm curious to see what happens with that in the future, because that might be a better option for Pendleton to have another interchange that Anderson truck traffic can then hop on before it really impacts any of our roads that we are taking care of and investing in. So
Right.
I'm also curious too that, you know, with it being in our jurisdiction, if there's any limitations that we can put on it to say, hey, there's no truck traffic here. I mean, if it's a town road that we've funded and we pay for, or development pays for, why can't we say that, you know, there's no through truck traffic, just like we do with State Street through the downtown?
Yeah, I see it being just a massive corridor for Nestle and Carter Express. And
Right. And
all those guys up there.
And I think we've done our homework on investing in our interchange and our business park entrances, that we just need to be mindful of that and protect that, you know, because we've done a good job with our interchange and making sure that traffic doesn't get held up there and there's a good traffic flow. So anyway, staff is keeping an eye on it. You know, we're involved with the conversations. We have a seat on the CAC committee that they call it, and we'll continue to be advocates for Pendleton. So
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing, I mean, selfishly, what I would not like to see happen is more distribution and all that just keep coming down that corridor
right.
towards what we're trying to make something else.
Right,
And
right.
I mean, that's why you guys are
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Exactly.
Trying to get higher level of investment and
Rachel's right, you definitely need this road. On the spine road, like we get on the east side, headed to, you know, being extended, just the question is what to do with truck traffic. Has anybody talked to him about any of this new interchange? That's it.
I think Rob Sparks has been taking the lead on it. And of course, we'll be providing any staff help with it on moving to, you know, to move it forward or to see what the thought is. It's, you know, what I've heard in the past is NDOT does kind of balk at putting interchanges within 1 mile of another interchange. You know, obviously, as we get closer to Indianapolis, that's not necessarily the case, but in the more rural parts, you know, when you move out from the city, that's kind of the guidelines that they
So I remember
somewhat
like
follow.
INDOT was looking, putting interchange on stuff, what to talk on Cynthia Road. There's been talk for the last several years.
Mhm.
I don't know if it stands right now, I can check, you know. So, but I was able to work with one in Lightstown. There was an IBJ recently. They're ready to offer the ticket change, you know, between 267 and 334, just halfway, like I said, a mile. What it kind of helped with that case was they at that time they had a developer who was proposing pretty good scale, you know,
Right.
huge development, but the developer in the meantime walked away. But it looks like they were able to get funding for that interchange. And just a little bit, so what helped is they had the funding for improvements of interchanges, upstream and downstream from that, say. But then they were able to kind of relocate some funds instead of spending too much money on like 267 on Amazon. They were able to move some funds to build new interchange. I mean, usually new interchange, if it's not super sophisticated, I would say 25 to 30 million. That's the cost.
And I would assume that when they're development driven, there's a partnership with IEDC or something where they're getting
Yeah.
funds shifted over to help out with a road improvement project like that. So, you know, I think it's something to be mindful of and at least start the discussion, because if we don't have the discussion, we're, you know, it's not going to be on the table at all. So
I'm going to throw out an idea.
Okay.
Again, we're at a conceptual level. I'll just throw out an idea that you know, might be good to let work for them. So say, you know, our market analysis comes back. We have a good market position for the kind of destination development that happens on this site. And you don't want any truck traffic through here other than what's serving the facilities here, like no through traffic. it's conceivable that if their truck traffic, I'm assuming that they would come south to this interchange because they don't want to drive north to the south. Right? That's what they want to avoid. So you could have this truck traffic be redirected and come through here if this ends up being more of your, let's say, technology development, and it's more commercial industrial as opposed to commercial retail, housing, quality of life, the work type space. And so that would be one way in which you could manage that.
Ken, was that zigzagging over the bridge at Old 132 that goes over I-69? Right here.
It would be, they would come down, they come across, and they
Yeah.
and so you just keep them out of your special development
Right.
area.
And we did talk with Theme about that because they did a corridor analysis and they had 4 corridors picked out. And one of the corridors was that in particular.
Yeah.
The issue with that is the bridge that goes over I-69 at that location would have to be substantially improved to allow for the truck traffic to go over it. So that would be a challenge associated with it. Not to say it's out of the question, but I know that is one thing that did come up during their alternatives analysis. Because we said at the time when they were talking with us, we said, we don't really see this side of the interstate developing as quickly as the east side. The east side was getting a lot more traction when they had approached us about it. And, just the Heritage Way and extending Heritage Way would be huge for our community, to go north up to 600, like you have your arrows on this. However, the alternatives analysis kind of came back as that would be a more expensive option. So,
well, and one of the advantages you have some time on your side relative to this project, and it's not funded, so it's conceptual, and if we get your master plan together and it's a solid plan, it becomes the argument for rerouting that truck traffic so you can protect the kind of investment you're looking for here. I think you got a really good place to stand. Without the plan, without the vision, what you want to do, they're going to say, well, this is the easiest thing. That's what we're going to do. So I think that getting the plan together, having the market analysis behind it, which is a justification, is another way to argue with them for what you really want to have happen. But I agree with everyone here. I do what I can to keep it.
it's difficult because we need it, but we don't need the truck traffic. We need the corridor. I think it's very important. However, the truck traffic that could potentially be associated with it is not necessarily what we want.
Thank you.
Are you guys comfortable with what? I'm sorry, Adam.
I was just saying, I don't have any more questions.
Okay. Do you guys feel like the project area that we've identified and added to seems appropriate for what we're trying to do? I just want to make sure we're all comfortable with where we kind of landed on the parcels that we ended up taking in. And if there's something else that doesn't make sense or you think we should be adding, I guess this is the time we should talk about it before we continue moving forward. And I guess one thing we should talk about, Ken, is on the south side, there's a couple of parcels that are not currently in town that we're including on the south side. Yes. As staff, we thought it was important to include those parcels in the study too. They're currently owned by an investor, and so we can speculate that likely they're holding on to it until the right time to do some type of development project on it. So we just thought it would be prudent of us to include it in the study so we can, have a good idea of what we'd like to see on it or how future roads would develop into those parcels.
And because of the proximity to the bend, and that becomes part of your business park, there's a fair amount of visibility there for firms that would want to build a facility because some exposure from the okay. And we're happy to take questions if you think of something else after you've had a chance to digest this further, and feel free to reach out to us directly or funnel them to Rachel. Thank you.
Hey, Ken, I have one question too that we didn't talk about the other day. I was looking at a TIF district map today and or maybe we should just keep this in the back of our minds that we may need to do a TIF district update
Yes,
after we
Yes.
get this
Yeah.
in order.
and if you have a way to send that boundary
Yes.
me, as I look through the files like that.
Oh, we didn't send you the TIF? Okay, we can do that. Yep,
You talked about it, superimposed.
yes.
No, I know we have easels like that, but that's Rachel.
Oh, this is, I'm sorry.
You're fine, yeah.
It's very
I see how it
similar.
is, Alan. You can just lean it up against the wall and get it later. Yeah. Well, thank you guys. We appreciate it.
I'm gonna leave you an updated copy.
Excellent, thank you. Just toss it on the floor here and I'll get it picked up.
Just give me that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go, mark them up.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll be moving on to the revolving loan fund program. But Craig and Dave are not.
Craig
here.
and Dave are the guys, and they are not here. I know that they did meet last week. They came into town hall and met after hours one evening to discuss it. He actually called me yesterday and said, hey, make sure that's on the agenda because we want to talk about it. So I'm not sure, what happened. I don't think I got an email or a text from him, but it sounds like they were making some progress on it. So I expect then at our next RDC meeting, we'll get an update.
Moving on to new business, says there's no new business.
No.
Okay, and the next thing would be, I need a motion for adjournment. Second. Second's been made, meeting closed.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.